Let me ask you something. What do you think about most when nobody is around? Not what you tell people you think about, not what you post, not what you wish you thought about. I mean the conversation that takes place inside your own mind every single day. Because that conversation is shaping your direction. You see, most people want to change their circumstances without first changing the thoughts that keep producing those circumstances. They want a better life, but they continue thinking the same limiting thoughts. They want greater confidence, but every morning they remind themselves of everything they cannot do. They want opportunity, but their mind is constantly preparing them for disappointment. They want success, but deep inside they keep asking, what if I fail? And eventually, the mind starts believing what it hears repeatedly. Your thoughts are powerful because they influence what you notice, what you expect, and what you are willing to do. If you consistently tell yourself, there are no opportunities, you will walk right past opportunities because your mind has already decided they don't exist. If you tell yourself, people like me don't succeed, you may never take the risk required to discover what you are capable of. But change the thought, and you begin to change the direction. Now, let me make something clear. This isn't about pretending that everything is wonderful when it isn't. You don't have to sit around repeating positive words while ignoring reality. That's not strength. That's avoidance. Real mental transformation is learning to look at reality and still believe that you can respond to it intelligently. Maybe you've had a difficult year. Fine, admit it. Maybe you've made mistakes. We've all made them. Maybe someone rejected you. A business failed, an opportunity disappeared, or a plan didn't work. That's life. But don't make the mistake of turning one difficult experience into a permanent definition of yourself. There is a difference between saying, this didn't work, and saying, I can't make anything work. There is a difference between saying, I made a mistake, and saying, I am a failure. There is a difference between saying, I'm not where I want to be yet, and saying, I'll never get there. The first statement describes an experience. The second creates an identity. And identity matters, because sooner or later, your actions tend to follow the picture you have created of yourself. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you're more likely to keep a promise when motivation disappears. If you see yourself as someone who learns, a problem becomes a lesson instead of a dead end. If you see yourself as someone capable of growing, criticism becomes information instead of an insult. So begin paying attention to the words you use when you talk to yourself. What are you saying in the morning? What are you saying when something goes wrong? What are you saying when you compare yourself to somebody else? What are you saying when you're tired? That's where your real philosophy reveals itself. And if you discover that your internal conversation has been negative, don't condemn yourself. Simply begin changing it. Instead of I can't, ask, how can I? Instead of I'm behind, say, what can I do today to move forward? Instead of I'm not ready, ask, what do I need to learn to become ready? That's a different way of thinking. And a different way of thinking creates different choices. You begin looking for solutions instead of excuses. You begin seeing possibilities instead of only obstacles. You become willing to make the phone call, read the book, learn the skill, start the business, repair the relationship, improve your health, or take the first uncomfortable step toward the future you've been talking about. And here's where the real power begins. A thought by itself doesn't build your future. A thought becomes powerful when you repeat it until it becomes a belief, and then you act on that belief consistently. That's why you must be careful about what you repeatedly feed your mind. What you read matters. What you listen to matters. The people you spend time with matter. The conversations you participate in matter. Because everything you repeatedly consume is helping shape the mental environment from which your decisions are made. You can't fill your mind every day with fear, cynicism, complaining, and limitation, and then wonder why your confidence is weak. Feed your mind possibility. Feed it knowledge. Feed it discipline. Feed it better questions. Feed it examples of people who decided that their circumstances would not have the final word. And then give those thoughts something to work with. Take action, because the purpose of changing your thoughts isn't to escape reality. It's to approach reality with a stronger mind. You don't need to convince yourself that you already have everything. You need to convince yourself that you can become more, learn more, do more, and contribute more. Once you begin thinking differently, you start noticing differently. Once you notice differently, you start choosing differently. And once you choose differently over and over again, your direction changes. So don't underestimate the thought you keep repeating today. It may be shaping the decision you'll make tomorrow, the habit you'll build next month, and ultimately the life you'll live years from now. Guard your mind, Because your thoughts are not just passing through your life, they are pointing it somewhere. Chant your thoughts, change your direction, and eventually change your life. Building on that, there is another truth you have to understand. You will rarely pursue consistently what you don't believe you deserve. Now, I know that sounds simple, but think about it. How many people say they want a better life while secretly believing that better life belongs to somebody else? They see successful people and think they were lucky. They see confident people and think I could never be like that. They see someone living with freedom and say, that just isn't for someone like me. And there it is. The limitation isn't always outside of them. Sometimes the limitation is the belief they have accepted about themselves. You can have a wonderful goal written on paper, but if deep down you believe you're not capable of achieving it, you'll find 100 reasons to delay. You'll procrastinate, you'll talk yourself out of opportunities, you'll start and stop. You'll make progress and then sabotage it because your actions are fighting against your own internal picture. That's why you have to examine what you believe you deserve, not what you wish for. What you believe, because there's a difference. A person can wish for financial freedom while believing that money is always difficult to earn. A person can wish for a healthy relationship while believing they're destined to be disappointed. A person can dream about becoming successful while believing they're not disciplined enough, intelligent enough, talented enough, or connected enough. And when belief and desire are in conflict, belief often wins. So you've got to start changing that internal picture. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you should walk around believing you're entitled to everything you want without effort. That's not confidence. That's fantasy. You don't deserve success simply because you want it. But you can decide that you are worthy of pursuing it. You can decide that you're worthy of learning, you're worthy of improving, you're worthy of another attempt, you're worthy of taking your potential seriously. And once you make that decision, something changes inside you. You stop asking, who am I to want this? And you start asking, what do I need to become to achieve this? That's a much better question because you don't have to be the person today who can accomplish everything you want tomorrow. You simply have to become willing to grow into that person. If you want greater confidence, practice keeping promises to yourself. If you want greater success, develop valuable skills. If you want better relationships, become a better communicator and a better listener. If you want greater freedom, learn how to manage your time and your money. If you want a stronger life, build stronger habits. You see, your future doesn't require you to become perfect. It requires you to become more capable. And that is something you can work on. Every day, you get evidence about who you are becoming. When you say you're going to wake up early and you do it, you're teaching yourself, I can trust myself. When you commit to reading and you read, you're teaching yourself, I am a person who learns. When you make a difficult decision instead of avoiding it, you're teaching yourself, I can handle discomfort. These little victories may look insignificant to somebody else, but they're enormous inside you. Because confidence isn't something you simply think your way into. Confidence is often built by keeping commitments to yourself. And that's where the law of attraction becomes much more meaningful. Don't reduce it to simply wishing for something and expecting the universe to deliver it to your doorstep. Your beliefs influence your expectations influence your behavior, and your behavior determines many of the results you experience. If you expect rejection everywhere, you may never ask. If you expect failure, you may quit early. If you expect that improvement is possible, you'll keep learning. If you expect that opportunities can be created, you'll start looking for ways to create them. Your expectation changes your behavior, and your behavior changes your results. So begin raising the standard of what you believe is possible for your life, not because you want to impress anybody, not because you want to prove somebody wrong. Do it because you have a responsibility to develop the potential you've been given. Maybe you've spent years believing you're behind. Let that belief go. Maybe you've made decisions you're ashamed of. Learn from them, but stop using your past as a prison sentence. Maybe people have underestimated you. That's their opinion. Don't make it your identity. And maybe you've underestimated yourself. That's the one you need to correct. You don't need permission to believe that you can become better. You don't need everybody around you to understand your vision. You don't need to have the whole road mapped out before you take the first step. You need a stronger belief in your ability to learn, adapt, work, and persist. Then prove that belief through action. Because when you begin believing that you are capable of more, you start behaving like someone capable of more. You make different choices. You tolerate less of what holds you back. You become more selective about your environment. You stop settling for every excuse your mind offers. And slowly, almost quietly, your life begins to reflect the person you're becoming. So don't just ask yourself what you want to attract. Ask yourself what kind of person you must become to sustain it. Asterisk, raise your belief, raise your standards, and rise to meet the life you desire. And once you begin believing that you are capable of more, the next question becomes very important. What are you going to do about it? Because desire without action is just a pleasant thought. You can think about a better future all day long. You can visualize success. You can write your goals on paper. You can tell yourself that something wonderful is coming. But sooner or later, you've got to get up and participate in the process. You see, there is a great misunderstanding about attraction. People sometimes imagine that if they think positively enough, life will simply rearrange itself around their wishes. But that's not how meaningful change works. You don't attract a better life by sitting still. You attract opportunity by becoming prepared for opportunity. You attract progress by taking steps that create progress. You attract confidence by doing difficult things and discovering that you can handle them. The thought gives you direction. The action gives that thought power. And that's why I want you to stop waiting for the perfect moment. There will probably never be one. You say, I'll start when I have more money. Maybe. I'll start when I have more time. You might be waiting a long time. I'll start when I feel confident. But confidence often comes after you start, not before. I'll start when everything is finally under control. My friend, life doesn't work that way. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start before you feel completely ready. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You need to be willing to take the next step. Think about how a person builds physical strength. They don't walk into a gym one day and become strong because they imagine themselves lifting heavier weights. They train, they struggle, they repeat. They gradually increase their capacity. Your life works the same way. You want greater discipline? Practice discipline today. You want greater confidence? Do something uncomfortable today. You want more knowledge? Read something valuable today. You want a better career. Learn a useful skill today. You want financial improvement? Start understanding where your money goes today. You want healthier relationships? Have the conversation you've been avoiding today. Small action is still action. And never underestimate what small actions repeated long enough can produce. A person who reads 10 pages every day may not feel transformed after 1 week. But keep going for a year and you've consumed thousands of pages. A person who saves a modest amount consistently may not feel wealthy after a month, but years of disciplined behavior can create a completely different financial position. The miracle is often not in the size of the action. It's in the consistency of the action. That's why you have to stop looking for dramatic changes and start respecting ordinary disciplines. 1 phone call, 1 page, 1 workout, 1 hour of learning, 1 difficult decision, 1 promise kept, 1 distraction resisted, 1 more attempt. These things don't look impressive when you do them once, but repeated long enough, they become a life. And this is where your thoughts and your actions meet. You told yourself you were capable of more. Good. Now give yourself evidence. Don't merely say you're disciplined. Practice discipline. Don't merely say you're ambitious. Work towards something. Don't merely say you're committed. Keep showing up when the excitement disappears, because eventually, your actions begin confirming the belief you've been developing. And something powerful happens when you start keeping promises to yourself. You trust yourself more. That's important. A lot of people have confidence problems because they've spent years making promises to themselves and breaking them. Tomorrow I'll start. Monday I'll change. Next month I'll get serious. Over and over again, they tell themselves one thing and do another. Eventually, the mind learns not to believe them, so rebuild that trust. Make smaller promises if necessary, but keep them. If you say you'll spend 30 minutes learning, spend 30 minutes learning. If you say you'll get up at a certain time, get up. If you say you'll finish the task, finish it. Every time you follow through, you're sending yourself a message. When I decide to do something, I can count on myself. That's real power. And don't worry if the first results are small. The first workout doesn't transform your body. The first book doesn't transform your mind. The first business idea doesn't transform your finances. The first courageous conversation doesn't transform every relationship. But the first step changes something very important, your direction. And once your direction changes, you can keep walking. Now, there will be days when you don't feel like it. That's where many people misunderstand motivation. They think successful people are always inspired. No, they simply learn not to make every decision based on how they feel. Some mornings you're enthusiastic. Some mornings you're tired. Some days everything goes right. Other days you wonder if any of this is working. Keep moving. You don't have to feel powerful to take a powerful action. You don't have to feel confident to make the phone call. You don't have to feel fearless to begin. Courage is often simply moving forward while fear is still present. So take that dream you've been carrying around in your mind and give it a calendar. Give it a schedule. Give it a first step. If the goal matters, put something on your day that moves you toward it. Because a goal without action is only a wish. And a wish repeated without action eventually becomes frustration. But a desire followed by disciplined action becomes progress. So think bigger, believe better, and then get to work. Don't just wish for the life you want. Take the next step toward it. Asterisk. And once you start taking action, you discover something else. Your actions need support. You can have a powerful vision. You can believe that something better is possible, and you can take the first step. But if your daily habits keep pulling you in the opposite direction, eventually the old patterns will win. That's why your habits must match your vision. You see, everybody has a picture in their mind of the life they would like to live. Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe it's a successful business. Maybe it's better health, stronger relationships, more knowledge, more confidence, more time with family, or simply the freedom to wake up and know that your life belongs to you. Wonderful. But here's the question. Does your daily life look like it's moving toward that picture? Because your future is not built once in a while when you're highly motivated. Your future is being built in ordinary moments. It's being built when nobody is watching. It's being built by what you repeatedly do. Your habits are votes for the person you're becoming. Every time you read instead of endlessly scrolling, you're voting for a more educated version of yourself. Every time you exercise when you don't feel like it, you're voting for a stronger version of yourself. Every time you save instead of spending impulsively, you're voting for a more financially responsible version of yourself. Every time you keep your word, you're voting for a more disciplined version of yourself. And the opposite is also true. Every excuse you repeatedly accept is teaching you something. Every unnecessary distraction you surrender to is teaching you something. Every promise you repeatedly break is teaching you something. That's why you have to be careful about calling your habits small. Small habits become big patterns, and big patterns eventually become your lifestyle. You might say, it's only 1 hour on my phone. Fine. But what happens when that hour becomes every day? You might say, I'll skip today's workout. Fine. But what happens when skipping becomes your normal response to discomfort? You might say, I'll start reading tomorrow. Fine. But what happens when tomorrow keeps moving further away? The problem is rarely one isolated decision. The problem is what repeated decisions are creating. That's why I want you to look at your day differently. Don't just ask, what do I want? Ask, what does the person who gets what I want do every day? If you want to become a writer, you write. If you want to become an entrepreneur, you learn to solve problems and create value. If you want to become financially successful, you learn how money works and develop better financial habits. If you want to become physically stronger, you train and take care of your body. If you want to become wiser, you read, reflect, listen, and learn from experience. The vision tells you where you're going. Your habits determine whether you get there. And don't make the mistake of thinking you need to completely redesign your life overnight. You don't. In fact, trying to change everything at once is one reason people quit. They get excited, create an enormous list, try to wake up at 5, exercise for 2 hours, read 50 pages, work 12 hours, eliminate every distraction, eat perfectly, and become a completely different person by Monday. Then Monday arrives, life happens, they're tired, something goes wrong, and suddenly the entire plan collapses. No, make it sustainable. Choose a few habits that matter and practice them until they become part of who you are. Maybe you begin by waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe you read 10 pages every day. Maybe you spend the first hour of your morning without social media. Maybe you write down your priorities before the day begins. Maybe you exercise for 20 minutes. Maybe you spend 15 minutes learning a skill that can improve your future. These things may look ordinary. That's the point. Success is often ordinary things done extraordinarily consistently. And here's something else you have to understand. Your environment is part of your habit system. If you keep your phone beside you all day, don't be surprised when you reach for it constantly. If every person around you complains, don't be surprised when your own thinking becomes negative. If your environment constantly encourages comfort, don't be surprised when discipline feels difficult. Make the right behavior easier. Put the book where you can see it. Prepare your workout clothes in advance. Write down your priorities. Remove unnecessary distractions. Spend more time around people who challenge you to grow. You don't need perfect willpower when you have a supportive environment. And remember, The law of attraction isn't about simply imagining the person you want to become. It's about aligning your thoughts, beliefs, choices, and habits with that person. If you say you want a different future but continue living according to your old habits, you're sending yourself a mixed message. Your vision says, I want more. Your habits say, I'm comfortable with less. Your goal says, I want freedom. Your routine says, I'll keep doing what I've always done. Something has to change. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. Start by asking yourself tonight, what is one habit I need to stop? And what is one habit I need to begin? Then tomorrow, act on the answer, because your life is not waiting somewhere in the distance. Your life is being created today in the way you spend your morning, in what you do with your time, in what you consume, in what you tolerate, in what you repeat. So make your habits agree with your dreams. Your vision shows you the future. Your habits build the road to it. And once your habits begin to match your vision, you have to understand something else. Matching your habits to your dreams does not mean that everything is suddenly going to become easy. In fact, sometimes the moment you get serious about changing your life is the moment life seems to test you the most. That's why you need a mindset that can expect better without expecting everything to be easy. You can have a great vision and still have difficult days. You can be disciplined and still experience disappointment. You can be positive and still face rejection. You can work hard and still have things go wrong. That's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. That's life. Sometimes people begin pursuing a goal with the expectation that if they are doing everything right, nothing should go wrong. Then the first obstacle appears and they immediately question everything. Maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should quit. But what if the obstacle isn't there to tell you to quit? What if it's there to develop the strength you will need for the next level? Think about it. If everything always worked on the first attempt, what would you learn about patience? If everybody accepted you, what would you learn about confidence? If every plan succeeded immediately, what would you learn about adaptability? Difficulty has a way of introducing you to parts of yourself that comfort never could. That's why you have to learn the difference between disappointment and defeat. Disappointment says, this didn't happen the way I wanted. Defeat says, nothing can be done. Those are not the same thing. You can experience disappointment without surrendering your direction. You can lose an opportunity without losing your vision. You can make a mistake without becoming the mistake. You can have a bad month without deciding that your entire future is bad. This is where your thinking becomes so important. When circumstances change, you need the ability to keep your internal direction steady. Maybe the business doesn't grow as quickly as you expected. Keep learning. Maybe someone says no. Keep improving. Maybe you worked hard and didn't get the recognition you wanted. Keep building. Maybe you've been consistent for months and the results still seem small. Keep going. You don't always get immediate evidence that your effort is working, and that's where many people quit. They plant the seed and dig it up every few days to see if it's growing. Don't do that with your goals. Give your effort time. Give your habits time. Give yourself time. There is a season for planting and a season for harvesting. Your responsibility is to keep planting when you haven't yet seen the harvest. That doesn't mean blindly repeating the same mistake. There's an important difference between persistence and stubbornness. Stubbornness says, I'm committed to the destination. Stubbornness says, I'll use the exact same method forever, even when it's clearly not working. Be committed to your vision, but flexible with your methods. If something doesn't work, learn, adjust, try again, get better information, ask better questions. Change the approach, but don't automatically change the goal simply because the first strategy failed. And this is where expectation becomes powerful. Expect better. Expect growth. Expect that your efforts can produce something meaningful. But prepare for difficulty. Prepare for delays. Prepare for rejection. Prepare for days when motivation disappears. Prepare for moments when people don't understand what you're trying to build. Because if you're prepared for difficulty, difficulty won't surprise you into quitting. You'll say, of course this is hard. I knew there would be hard days. Now what can I learn from this? That's a different mindset. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That's a much more productive question. Maybe the setback is teaching you patience. Maybe it's teaching you that you need a new skill. Maybe it's showing you that your plan wasn't strong enough. Maybe it's revealing that you were depending too heavily on somebody else's approval. Maybe it's teaching you to manage your time better. Maybe it's simply teaching you how badly you want the goal. Whatever the lesson is, take it. Don't waste the pain. If you're going to go through difficulty, at least come out of it wiser. And remember, A positive mindset doesn't mean you deny the problem. It means you refuse to let the problem become your identity. You can look at a financial challenge and say, this is difficult, but I can learn. You can look at a career setback and say, this hurts, but I can improve. You can look at a failed attempt and say, that didn't work, but now I know something I didn't know before. That's optimism with responsibility. That's hope with discipline. And that's much stronger than simply repeating positive words. Because eventually, life is going to ask you a question. How serious are you? Not when everything is going well, when things get uncomfortable, when progress is slow, when nobody is applauding, when the excitement is gone. When you have to choose between the easy thing and the right thing, that's when your character speaks. You don't need to become somebody who never struggles. Become somebody who knows how to continue through struggle. You don't need to expect a perfect journey. Expect yourself to become stronger throughout the journey. And when the road gets difficult, remember why you started. Remember the person you're becoming. Remember the life you're building. Then take the next step. Not 10 steps. Not the entire journey. Just the next step, because sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply refusing to stop. Expect the best, prepare for the struggle, and keep moving forward. And when you've learned to think differently, believe differently, act differently, build better habits, and keep going when things get difficult, you arrive at the most important question of all. Who are you becoming? Because ultimately, the goal isn't simply to attract a bigger house, a better career, more money, more recognition, or some other thing you've been dreaming about. Those things can be wonderful, but they are not the deepest measure of success. The deeper question is whether you are becoming the kind of person who can create that life and handle it well once you have it. You see, it's one thing to receive something. It's another thing to sustain it. A person can suddenly receive money and still have poor financial habits. A person can achieve success and still lack discipline. A person can gain influence and still have weak character. A person can reach a goal and still feel empty because they never developed the person capable of appreciating what they achieved. So don't make the mistake of thinking the destination is everything. The journey is changing you. Every challenge you've faced has an opportunity to develop something in you. Every goal gives you a reason to become more disciplined. Every setback gives you an opportunity to become wiser. Every responsibility asks you to become stronger. And that's why I want you to stop saying, I want a better life, and start asking, what kind of person would naturally create a better life? That's the question. If you want more freedom, become more responsible. If you want greater success, become more valuable. If you want stronger relationships, become a better person to be around. If you want more confidence, become someone who keeps promises to yourself. If you want more opportunities, become someone who is prepared when opportunity arrives. You see, the life you want has requirements, and your job is to meet them. If you want to carry a greater responsibility, you need greater capacity. If you want to manage more money, you need better financial discipline. If you want to lead people, you need emotional maturity. If you want to build something meaningful, you need patience. You can't simply ask for the harvest without becoming the person capable of managing the harvest. That's why personal development isn't something you do after you become successful. Personal development is how you become successful. And this is where the whole idea comes together. You started with your thoughts. Your thoughts shaped your beliefs. Your beliefs influenced your expectations. Your expectations influenced your actions. Your actions became habits. Your habits shaped your character. And your character determines how you handle the opportunities and responsibilities that come your way. That's why the law of attraction, when understood properly, is much bigger than simply getting what you want. It's about alignment. You want a different life? Align your thoughts with it. Align your beliefs with it. Align your daily actions with it. Align your habits with it. Align your character with it. Then you aren't simply waiting for a different future. You're becoming the person capable of creating one. And let me tell you something else. Don't wait until you've achieved everything before you allow yourself to be proud of your progress. Look at the person you were a year ago. Look at what you've learned. Look at the things you used to tolerate that you no longer tolerate. Look at the habits you've changed. Look at the conversations you're now willing to have. Look at the challenges you once thought would break you that you survived. That's evidence. Maybe you're not where you want to be yet. That's okay. You don't need to be finished to be growing. You don't need to have everything figured out to be moving forward. You don't need to have arrived to know you're on the right road. Keep becoming, ride something that makes you wiser, learn something that makes you more valuable, practice something that makes you more disciplined, Spend time with people who challenge your thinking. Protect your attention. Keep your word. Take care of your body. Manage your money responsibly. Do the difficult thing when the difficult thing is the right thing. And every evening, ask yourself a simple question. Did I become a little better today? Not perfect. Better. That's a standard you can live by, because eventually, the person you become will be far more important than the things you accumulate. And when your thoughts, beliefs, actions, habits, and character are aligned, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing a life that feels impossible and start creating a life that feels increasingly natural. You begin to walk differently. You make decisions differently. You respond to problems differently. You see opportunities differently. You expect more from yourself, not because you're trying to prove something to the world, but because you've discovered what you're capable of. That's the real transformation, not merely getting what you wanted, becoming someone worthy of the responsibility that comes with it. So don't just visualize the future, build yourself for it. Don't just ask what you want to attract, ask what you need to become. And then day by day, decision by decision, habit by habit, become that person. Become the person your dream requires, and your life will begin to reflect who you've become.